All right, what's up, speaker coach friends? It's Michelle B, and we are back with a fantastic episode for you. Today, we're talking to Lorena Tomasini, and we are talking about how to avoid common mistakes that could take your business down. So, the truth is that we spend an exorbitant amount of time in our jobs, in our careers, and especially building our business. Is even more true for when you're building your business. And for so many businesses, I think the average is like 5 to 10 years before it really becomes profitable and it's, a machine that's doing things for you. But how many of us are not protecting that legacy? So you've done all this work, you've built it all up, but some oversights could cause you to lose everything. So we are talking Armageddon situations here today. And Lorena's going to give us some tips and things that you might not know that you need to have in place or could have in place that would help you avoid those kind of situations. She's got years and years and years of experience. So thank you so much for joining us, Lorena. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you for having me on. I do want to say we are going to make this a fun topic today. So, not, negative Nancy, no. It's just fun things people should know about.
Well, and I think that's a great point too, because knowledge is power. Knowledge is potential power. If you don't know what you don't know, then you can't make the appropriate decisions. And I think that's been helpful in the financial space in general. I've just loved being an entrepreneur and learning all of the kind of like rebel, not always commonly talked about stuff to figure out, oh, okay, this is how I can use my money. This is how I can grow my money. This is how I can protect my money. So I'm really excited about this conversation. So tell us a little bit about, I want to talk about you and how you got into this space, but also can you just kind of before we dive into that, give us maybe an example that you've seen? I'm like, let's go back to doom and gloom, but I really do just want to give somebody like a taste or an example of what we're talking about here.
So, what we're really talking about here is protecting your finances no matter what happens throughout your life, right? And I can give you a really good example from a client of mine that I was doing a review. And I told her, hey, you bought this life insurance policy with me last year, but I see that you don't have anything in place, like in case of cancer, heart attack, stroke. And, I offered her something at the time that would give her like a lump sum of money if something like that were to happen, just to have that peace of mind. And she's like, oh, that sounds like a great policy, but these are things that don't happen in my family. I don't really need that right now. And she didn't take it. And I'll never forget, like 6 months later, the phone call that she's like, hey, Lorena, remember that policy you offered me? I bought it from you, right? The one that paid me money in case of cancer or heart attack. And I just remember my heart sinking because I'm like, oh, she's asking that is because something might have happened.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, she had a cancer diagnosis and she needed money for some things. And I told her, no, there's nothing we can do about that now. She did end up passing away, maybe like 2 years after that. So at least she did have that life insurance policy in place for her family, which was important to at least have that, right? So a lot of what we're talking about is like inaction when you're being presented something, thinking about things, and then a lot of procrastination, which I often see with maybe business owners. They're like, oh, I need to talk to my accountant about that. And I'm like, okay, when you started your business, did you ask your accountant, hey, should I start this business? No. You just went out there and did it, right? As long as you're presented with information that makes sense financially and it's within your budget, right? And you know why you're doing things. So I've been doing life and health insurance for 18 years now. Have a degree in finance. That was my major in school when I went. And my mom had been in the industry since before I was born, a long time. And she needed an appointment setter. And I had worked selling phones over the phone, which at a call center. And so I had experience in doing that. And I'm like, sure, I can set up appointments with you. So one day I went with her, like you always know what your parents do, but until you don't actually go with them, you don't really know. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like you help people and you fill out paperwork. I could do that part
Yeah.
time while I while I go to school. And nothing, I graduated and I just decided to stay with it because I really enjoyed helping people and sending my own hours and so forth. Mhm.
Yeah, that's cool. So it's like it's a legacy business for you guys, sort of.
For sure, for
Yeah,
sure. Hmm.
very neat, very neat. So I love that example that you said because I didn't realize until I got educated on all of the life insurance and did that for a little while. I didn't even realize that there's like this, I know they have different terms for it, but this kind of living benefit of, hey, if something happens, you can have some extra money out. And I think one of the reasons that we procrastinate is like what your client said, oh, it's not going to happen to me, or that's not in my family, or I really need to spend my money on this other stuff. We're being proactive and we don't really want to look at the doom and gloom of it all. And like, that's not where we're hanging out. We're looking forward. We're not necessarily seeing what might happen. And so then we just keep taking action and just not thinking about that. But I actually have a brother recently. My life has been crazy lately because my brother just had a heart attack actually a
Oh,
couple
wow.
weeks ago, and he had triple bypass. He's living with me and his kids are here, and it is everything is fine. We're doing it, but like no, suddenly I went from 3 kids to 6 kids basically. And so it's like it's a strain, and he had really good benefits. Because here's the other thing that I hear from a lot of people is like, oh, I have really good work benefits, so it's totally fine. And he does have good work benefits, but now he has 6 months. He had to have surgery. So now he's like at least 6 months out of work, and they're only giving him 60% of his pay. And then a lot of his pay is actually commission based. If you think
Oh,
about us as business owners too, most people are commission based, right? It's if I'm not working, my business isn't making money. Most businesses you haven't exited your business. So if you're not working, your business isn't making money, period. Right? You're
yeah,
not getting 60% of your pay, and his was commission, but it's just 60% of his base pay. So it's like, how are you going to buy food? How are you going to get rent? How are you going to do anything? And if you had the opportunity ahead of time to get those benefits, then it would have been really amazing. He actually has had terrible health. I did talk to him about it, but I was like, yeah, you're not going to qualify, which was unfortunate. But so we got to plan ahead as much as possible. But I
yeah.
think it is something that you don't think about until it happens to somebody you know.
Yeah, yeah, and definitely, sorry to hear about your brother. But I always say these types of illnesses, whether it be cancer, heart attack, stroke, they're not just the person that it happens to, it's the family around them, right? Because good thing your brother seems he has some type of disability insurance, right? And that's why it covers 60%, not including commission, because it's only the salary part. But a lot of people out there, they don't have anything, and we don't think about if something happens, not only are you not generating income, but now maybe your spouse, if you happen to be married, now also has to take some time off work to help that person, right? And who's going to take the kids to school? Who's going to continue paying the rent, the FPL? Oh, we call it FPL, electricity. I'm here in Florida. Electricity, right? All that stuff. And it's just having that peace of mind that I always tell my clients, I hope you never have to use my insurance, but life insurance, we all know we're going to pass away at some point, right? Like, that's just the reality. But a lot of times we don't think about life insurance for like living benefits. Like, if God forbid something like that, like a critical illness or a chronic illness where you can't do activities of daily living, that now you have somewhere where you can use part of that death benefit to help you for prepare whatever you need to do, right? Some people even use it to go on that vacation they've always wanted to go because you know what? They told me I had this much time left, so let's just take the family on that vacation, right? Because you can do whatever you want with it, and since it's coming from a life insurance policy, it's also tax-free benefits, which is good. Um, but yeah, it's just a reality, and like you said, we depend on ourselves to work. Like I always joke around with people, what allows you to buy these types of policies is really your health because your budget, yeah, we can figure that out, right? Whatever you want to pay a month or a year. But if you can't medically qualify for the policies, then there's nothing we can do. Like, you want to pay $10,000 a month for the policy, that's great, but you're not going to pass underwriting, right? which is a big deal when we're looking at life insurance, not health insurance anymore, right? There's been a big change in that area, but for sure, the in life insurance, it is a big issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the earlier you do this, don't wait. The earlier you do this, the better, because the better health that you're likely to have. So tell us also with life insurance, usually, yeah, we're thinking life insurance, death benefit, that's it. That's what we need it for. But as a business owner, what other things can you use life insurance policies for? And how does that really end up protecting your business overall?
Yeah, so I think with business owners, like if it's just them, right? They run their business. A lot of times we don't think about retirement because maybe you don't have a 401k to put money into an IRA, right? So you could actually use a life insurance. Some people call it infinite banking or be your own bank. There's a lot of videos out there about that. The one thing I will say is that it does need to be properly structured. So like know why you're doing it and how it's being done and that it meets your goals, right? But basically what it is that you're buying a permanent plan, whether it be a whole life or index universal life. There's differences in both. Um, but basically, a permanent policy that also builds cash value so that you can use that cash value when you retire to help supplement whatever else you might have been doing for retirement, right? So that's one way. Another way that I see businesses or business owners use life insurance is what we call a buy sell agreement. It's just a fancy way of saying that if you have a business partner, that if something happens to either one, um, that the other partner will buy out the surviving yeah the surviving business partner will buy out the one that passed away their shares, right? So that way they can continue the business. um because, like I always joke, you don't want the spouse or their kids now coming in and taking over. They don't know anything about coaching or whatever it is, the donuts that you make at your shop, right? So you want to be able to give you time to find that new business partner that you want to recruit. Maybe it's a competitor that you've been looking at, right? That can help out. So, and then the third thing I would say that business owners maybe don't think about that or that it's really important is like for overhead expenses, right? So you can use that cash value as well to help pay overhead. Like if maybe you're sick or something, right? But you still need to pay your employees um their salaries, right? So that could be an interesting way of doing that. Mhm.
Yeah. So, can you take us a little deeper on how that works as well? Because I think with the buying out, are you talking, hey, the insurance policy, it's going to build cash value? I think for people who aren't super knowledgeable about life insurance, they don't really understand how it works and that you can take loans out against your policy and how that
Yeah,
works.
yeah, I didn't even get into that.
Also, there's also insurance that you can get like for my business partner, I can take out an insurance policy for my business partner. So there's kind of like two
Right.
ways to do that, right?
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about the easier one to explain, taking out loans from a insurance policy, right? So what that means is that that cash value that has been building year over year, you can take it out as a loan. Let's say you have a cash value in there of $50,000 and you want to take half of that to do something with it, open another business, expand your business, there, whatever it is, it's your money. So what you're going to do is call the insurance company and say, "Hey, I want to take out a loan against my cash value for $25,000." Why is this a good way of doing it? Because the interest rate is very low, like 1, 2%. So as you pay that back, what's happening is that the whatever you have left in the cash value is also accumulating interest. So it's almost like that interest that they were charging you for the loan, it's almost void because you're getting interest already in the policy, right? So very simple, you can take out a loan from the policy. What happens if you don't pay it back? Nothing. When you pass away, they would take it out from there, right? And then the second way of using life insurance with businesses, I would say,
Here,
is
sorry, I'm gonna actually interrupt you
yeah,
because this is
go
a
ahead.
big concept. Whenever I first learned that, I was like, why aren't we doing this more? Because I mean, even just buying a car and you take out a loan from a bank, then it's like, okay,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
9%, 10% now, and it's ridiculous. So if you're buying a car, let's say it's $20,000, you're going to end up spending $30,000 for that car or something
Right.
ridiculous. And if I took it out against myself, that's why they call it be your own bank, right? Because I have this, my money is slowly growing, and
Yeah.
now I can take a loan out and pay myself back. And
Yeah.
like you said, like the fact that the interest is sort of negated, and obviously there's like nuances to the math and everything, but if you could just negate the interest on it, then that makes a huge difference that you're able to do that for yourself. And I think one of the things that as business owners, you have this, most of us, if you're smart, right, you're saving some aside for, okay, what if something happens, and you should have some money in reserve for your business. And so I just always thought it was so, I don't know, my mind was blown when I heard it. I was like, oh, so smart. You just put your savings, you put your savings into this account. Now my savings is not depreciating, it's actually growing interest. And I'm continuing putting money aside for myself, for my business, and it's buying additional life insurance on top of it. So it's kind of a
Right.
dual thing of not only am I saving money, which is a good practice, but it's growing, it's building interest. I can take loans and I can pay myself back. And if something were to happen, it's like about double or so of, let's say it's a $50,000 that I have in there. Like you said,
Yeah.
life insurance is going to be like around 100,000 or something like that. So then
Right.
it
Right.
my family if something does happen. And I love things that do multiple things. I love things that do
Well,
multiple.
it's like I joke with people like, okay, your phone, tell me that you only use it for phone calls, and I'm gonna tell you you're lying to me, right? Because you go on Facebook, you go check your email, you use the calculator, right? And nowadays, your life insurance should be able to do the same thing, not just pay if you pass away, but you want to take out a loan, okay, you can do it. You have to buy the right type of policy. That's not gonna be, $20 a month. So, um, take out a loan, be able to use it, accelerate the death benefit in case of a critical illness or chronic illness, right? So instead of having to buy, five, six policies to do all these things, you can do it maybe with one or two policies depending on your needs, right? And I definitely agree, like the buying a car with a loan from a life insurance, that's usually the example we get as agents, like so we understand it, right? But it makes total sense. What you would have paid a bank for your monthly payments of the car, just pay it back to yourself by paying the insurance, that amount, right? So yeah, that's definitely a great way. And then I would say like the other way is what we had talked about. Like if let's say you and John own a business, okay? You own it 50-50, and the business is valued at $1 million, right? To make simple numbers here. Uh, you would buy a policy on John for $500,000 because he owns 50%, and then John would buy a policy on you for $500,000. Why? Because if any of you pass away, then the other person can use that death benefit to pay out the spouse, right? For example, for their shares of the business. So I can't make it any simpler than that, two people, because then if we start adding other business partners, it gets more complicated. But but that's the concept, right? That if something like that were to happen. Now, the other thing with the cash value, you could even use it for executive bonuses to yourself, right? Like I'm the business owner and I did really well this year and I want to give myself a bonus. You can use that um with the funds inside of a life insurance policy, right? So it just depends.
Well, and the thing that I love about life insurance policies too is nobody's breathing down your back saying, what are you going to use this money for? How are you going to pay it back? Give me like, what's your credit score? There's like
Yeah,
not all of this stuff in there because it's collateral. It's, hey, I already have the money right there. It's my money. I can borrow against that money. And so it's not like it's not like, I feel let's talk real here. A lot of business owners, especially in the beginning, get a bunch of loans, they get a bunch of credit card debt and things like that. And unfortunately, there's a lot of business owners that are in credit card debt, which that's like a whole nother topic we could go into, how to use insurance to pay off your credit card debt. But
It's the same concept, yeah.
yeah, same concept, but basically, yeah, where was I going with that? I went on a rant, and now I don't know where I'm headed. But basically, they're in this situation where their credit, your credit's in the trash, maybe, because, or I know certain, like in the real estate space, especially, sometimes, I don't know, just depending on what your business is, it's like, oh, well, you need to be earning this kind of income for us to give you this kind of money whenever, because you don't qualify for various reasons, because it's volatile or whatever. And so I just think insurance is an overlooked financial tool that for business owners in general.
For sure, for sure. I definitely agree with all that. And like I think it's not just procrastination, but a lot of times, unfortunately, it's just misinformation or lack of proper information, right? Like we see a lot of these videos on TikTok and Instagram, nothing against them, but they're like, oh, with $100 a month you can build all this, and I'm like, no, like that doesn't, the numbers don't add up. Like, you know, unless you're maybe like 2 years old or something like that, right? Which now that's a whole other concept
Right.
of
Yeah, there
life
you go.
insurance, right?
Right.
But yeah, there's definitely a lot of that, and then that's just with life insurance. With health insurance, it's a whole other world that people, you know, they they want to offer health insurance when they really can't afford it, and they think it's the only thing I can do to make my employees happy. And it's like there's so many other things we can do with insurance to keep your employees happy, if you happen to have employees, right? That is not just health insurance. hmm
Yeah. So even on the employee side, we could go on and on. We could have a series about all of this, but on the employee side, there's a lot to do with the health insurance and life insurance and on all of that. So tell us a little bit more about if someone's interest is spiked and they're like, yes, I want to understand this more. You have a session of
Yeah,
complimentary
so we
financial.
offer a financial protection review. It's a questionnaire that you'll easily determine if you have things in place or not, to help you with like replacing your income if something were to happen, or is your business protected, right? So should take less than 5 minutes to do, and then you make an appointment with me. No pressure, no sales pressure. I don't, like I say, you don't do this for 18 years by pressuring people into buying things, right? So, yeah, I'm licensed in Florida, Texas, Louisiana, and Illinois. If somebody's in a different state, we can always have a conversation, and then I can always get licensed there if there's a true interest in working with me.
Yes, amazing. Yeah, so perfect. Thank you so much again, Lorena, for coming. I think it's really opened people's eyes and gotten them interested in insurance and all the various ways that it can help. And yeah, again, tomorrow's not guaranteed, and that's not a super fun subject to go through, but really, I'm going to challenge you guys because I've been going through it. And this conversation has like made me think about my own situation again, too. If something happened today or tomorrow, is everything in place or not?
Right.
Or is it going to be a burden for your family or your business partner in the future? Is your business going to totally collapse? I mean, these are important questions to ask ourselves. Are there any last thoughts, Lorena?
My last thoughts would be, even if you already have a policy and it's been a while since you've reviewed it, it's always good to review. And a conversation with a financial professional like us that do insurance is probably one of the most important conversations many people will have, because, nobody's knocking on your door every day wanting to talk to you about these things. So when you get the opportunity to at least have the conversation and see if there's something there for you.
Perfect. Thank you.